We're now getting to our winners finals here. Spag just, of course, advancing against Snow Globes, and SkWiirel from earlier against Dog is now the both of these players that we're going to see here. Starting us off on PS2 as well. And they're sticking with their mains for now, so let's see how it works out here. Already, you see that SkWiirel is getting those, stage hazards on deck, basically, to block some of those arrows and make it even more difficult for Spag to approach.
As we said, SkWiirel has a very good win rate on PS2. It's a very long stage. But it's also a stage with platforms on it, which can allow Duck Hunt to get some specific setups going and frame traps around like getting off the platforms, because they are quite sticky in this game. But SkWiirel, again, just performing quite well. There's a bit of a test of mental endurance now for Spag, because Spag has just played a pretty long set against Snow Globes and has now had to go straight in with no break, whereas SkWiirel has had a break and played a bit of a quicker set as well. So there's going to be a real test of sort of mental endurance.
That's going to be a confirmed close range Clay Pigeon. Yeah. It's a little bit risky from SkWiirel there, because the Clay Pigeon has quite some end lag if you throw it out, but if you confirm it into the actual hit, there's some good opportunity to follow up with that back as SkWiirel does. So taking the first stock, and Spag, as you said, maybe a little bit shook there from the last game already. It's taken some time to really find those entrances, and SkWiirel's just going.
Yeah, SkWiirel's doing a really good job of spacing his short hops over, or spacing their short hops over sort of Dark Pit arrows. Maybe Normal Pit might actually be the play here, just because you can adjust those arrows to kind of meet that, but it means that SkWiirel is still able to set up, because they're just jumping over the arrows that at the beginning of the game we saw being used to kind of stop SkWiirel from being able to set up. And we also saw SkWiirel using those to approach in terms of that side B back air confirm. Yeah, so it's just it's just a bit difficult for Spag to really use those as part of their game plan, as they were kind of expecting them to. Like, Spag is like default going for arrows versus gunmen, but he doesn't really have the frame advantage in that situation. And SkWiirel is doing a really good job of exploiting that. That was a full confirm.
That was really cool. Using the hit lag on the shot from the gunman into the grab, the eye in from Spag as well is going to be meaning that the up air is confirming from that as well. Really cool from SkWiirel there, once again just using the mix-up there against Spag, and I can just trade away with those cans as well, because every trade, well, that's not necessarily a trade, but the trade before is going to work out in SkWiirel's favor, but the side B coming through, taking that stock very early.
Yeah, and there we saw it working, the sort of like arrow onto the can to throw SkWiirel off their rhythm and make them run into their own can effectively. And it's an alright way of dealing with that ledge trap, but SkWiirel, as I've said, has been finding some decent counterplay to it. So it'll be interesting to see how this goes. I mean, SkWiirel with a very commanding percent lead, but this is ultimate. So percents aren't as relevant as you'd expect.
Damn. All right.
Okay. I mean, percents were pretty relevant there.
That looked really scary for a quick second. I thought potentially they might die at the same time or something, but a very calculated trade from SkWiirel there, getting the can there and launching very high up. It's going to mean that, of course, Spag's going to die earlier, because I think they were like 130 or something, so good idea from SkWiirel, just going
130 up there. Lowest ceiling in the game, you're really high up as well. Like, that's a guaranteed kill, pretty much. I don't know if SkWiirel actually knew they weren't gonna die there. Maybe they did. Maybe they were just like, well, even if I was gonna die, I'm probably not gonna die first, because I have a much lower percent generally, and the weights are pretty similar, I think. So it was a smart option to pick. And generally, SkWiirel looked pretty in control. Maybe towards the end, Spag got something going and it looked quite tight, but
yeah, I know. Usually the Duck Hunt players are very aware of when trades are happening and how they're working out, because it has been a very core principle, getting some confirms off the can, also just getting out of combos by mashing that B button, because that is a frame one option
and that's
to interrupt combos.
49%, and still going.
Yeah, Spag has been getting some nice combos, and apparently SkWiirel was not quite able to match.
You don't really want to be ledge trapped by Duck Hunt, so you kind of want to avoid overcommitting when you can.
Yeah, that is for sure. Alright. Oh, there's a nice little snipe with the arrow, potentially setting up for an edge guard right here, but SkWiirel coming in with the aggressive up air, getting a spike as well. It's not going to kill, but it's going to add some more damage on Spag's stock. Very needed here for SkWiirel as well, as they've been kind of getting bopped. And there is a drag down confirm into the up smash. Spag showing off some stuff right now. My goodness.
I was talking about those drag down confirms earlier. You know, Pits do still have some stuff. That there aren't really honest characters in Ultimate in like the traditional sense. Everybody's got a little bit of sauce they can bring to the table, and we're seeing that there.
Yeah, now SkWiirel, you know, usually the Duck Hunts are really looking for those trades. Now SkWiirel is the one certainly not wanting those trades because the damage just piling up, trying to go for the spike. There is Spag's gonna get the side hit instead.
A much more commanding lead from Spag.
Yeah, SkWiirel ready with the tech that's gonna stay alive, but as you said, Spag just holding a very good lead. There's another trade onto the platform, but nobody capitalizing off it. My goodness. The second time we saw that today.
I don't think either of them expected to land there.
Yeah.
But I think it was very smart can placement from SkWiirel. Just didn't expect to be hit by it. Another down tilt upper. Very safe move, Pit down tilt. And as you can see, kill confirms. Really strong start to this game from Spag. Definitely looking like, I wouldn't maybe say 3-stock, but probably a 2-stock. Which is not something that I expected going in. Using Orbitars really well in this game instead of just Pit Arrow to deal with Can. And like, you combine that with the wave bounce and you've got a bunch of really interesting movement mix-ups and options.
Ooh, that was very close to the down air connecting there from Spag. Once again, Spag has been going for quite a few of these. I know they have the lead, right, so they can kind of afford it. Even if you don't get the spike hitbox, you can still kind of set up into something, but SkWiirel there gets the stock off finally with a good little back air. But
with the back air and missed it and just decided to frame trap with the air dodge.
Yeah. And now, of course, it's still very much so in Spag's favor. I don't see SkWiirel necessarily winning this unless they really just kind of try to camp out Spag. But we saw that earlier against Snow Globes, and Spag usually finds a way around.
Yeah, definitely. I think that you have a lot of another good can placement. SkWiirel's can placement generally has been better, but SkWiirel can't really afford to go for those trades. Like when the lead is in that position, like even though I guess you could say SkWiirel won that interaction, the fact that he's like a full stock down at this point means that they didn't really.
Yeah, exactly.
But I mean, getting some good ledge trapping going, potentially a comeback here, potentially. The way things are looking, Spag could definitely be down on their last stock, but commentator's curse. And as we said in the first game, Spag has been using a lot of really good shield pressure with jumps, and I think that definitely applies to platforms because every time you think that the pressure's going to end, every time it would end on a normal character, Pit can just jump, and all of a sudden you're back in the same situation. But it is winners finals, so it is best of 5. So it's a very long set, and we'll see how SkWiirel adapts and how Spag adapts.
Yeah, I think, you know, as you said, with the can trades there, towards the end, of course, SkWiirel, even though they might get something off it, like every percent you get is just one step closer to the grave there for that particular game. So both these players there sticking with their characters. I think the only one we can reasonably expect to switch around there is Spag, who has been really sticking with the Duck Hunt. So, but none of that. We're sticking with the characters, and we're going to Battlefield, which is an interesting pick, I would say. I'm not quite sure if Dark Pit gets any extensions of those platforms, but for SkWiirel, I think it is certainly. Oh, no tech! Ah,
going to the, yeah, it's
sad.
It's a smart up air there to be like, okay, well I can't. To like notice that you can get the stage spike, even though you're like below your opponent. Normally, your kind of opportunity would be gone there. And a really good capitalization on what was a bit of a big error from SkWiirel for kind of staying at ledge too long. That's the thing, is because Duck Hunt's recovery isn't very long. Duck Hunt's ledge invincibility time is going to be a lot shorter because you're going to spend a lot more time in the air because your recovery is slow.
Yeah. I love the pressure from Spag right now. You saw them, getting 2 up airs in a row and then very smartly just waiting out the air dodge. SkWiirel trying to dodge the 3rd up air, getting neutral there as well into another grab. So Spag just putting on the pressure at the moment at SkWiirel here and not really giving SkWiirel any time to really, set something up. As long as Spag is in SkWiirel's face, there's nothing they can do, and there is a down smash as well. 2-stock lead here once again for Spag.
Definitely, I think that it's that Spag has kind of gotten better as time has gone on and adapted to the matchup and adapted to the way to play it. SkWiirel keeps going for side B back air, but I don't know if it's just good DI because it's not really working.
I think that depends on how far you are away from the side B, and of course at some percent it becomes more inconsistent because you get launched further. There is another edge guard from Spag right now, has all the opportunity, tries to go for the spike, but SkWiirel with the clutch air is gonna make it back, but how much is it going to mean in the end here? SkWiirel gets the grab, but the down throw at those percents will not confirm anymore, even on bad DI, I think. And so SkWiirel's really struggling finding the killer. Usually Duck Hunt is kind of struggling with that anyway, but this is just getting extubated even further here.
And Spag now, I was going to say Spag now at max rage, but the Nair takes it. But Spag now with a huge lead, and those can trains aren't going to work. Can trades aren't going to work. And generally Spag's juggling has been really strong.
Oh, alright, Spag. Just showing off with the parry into forward smash on the last hit of the rapid jab right there. Good stuff from Spag. Getting that game down with a 2-stock once again here. Going up 2-1 in this best of 5. I really love what I'm seeing from Spag right now. There's some confidence in that play.
Definitely, yeah. And just sort of working their way through the Duck Hunt zoning really well and capitalizing really well as well. Realizing that against Duck Hunt, or realizing very early on, sort of like edge guarding is going to be a really strong tool, and also realizing how good juggling is versus a character with like generally bad mobility. Once you get a lead, the tools that Duck Hunt has to mitigate those things in terms of are like so much worse. But again, going to PS2, a very neutral stage, but a really good stage for Duck Hunt, and particularly for SkWiirel. So we'll see how this goes.
Exactly. You said it in the past. Usually PS2 has really been working out great for SkWiirel and for Duck Hunts in general. Chapman, the other Duck Hunt who was in this bracket as well. Both of these players really like to go to this stage because it provides more cover, as you said, with those kind of sticky platforms. You can just hide under them and set up. Stage also kind of large. There's lots of opportunity to get some space to get the time. But for now, it is still Spag with the pressure. But SkWiirel now has the time needed to set something up. But the Orbiters are going to make sure that Spag is safe and finds their way back to center.
There's back there as well to do what you can. Doing a really good job of just dealing with Duck Hunt zoning tools now. It took about a game to really adapt to it, but once Spag did, they haven't looked back, and that's it. That's it for that stock, and now it's just a question of, the dynamic changes a lot when your opponent's looking for a kill, and SkWiirel has a lot of damage to rack up before they can even really start looking at one. So it's a big opportunity now for Spag to just kind of get as much damage as possible. Seeing another confirm there. This lead is gonna get pretty commanding soon if SkWiirel's not careful.
Usually the Duck Hunt is one of those characters you really want to play from an advantageous position if possible, because you're really bad at approaching most of the time. You can of course do some mix-ups and all that, but so can Spag with that confirm into the back air, getting rid of that aggression from SkWiirel and taking the stock.
I think the DIing out away from the combo, but I do think that okay, hitbox extension. It's smart to recognize that it makes it easier to whiff punish. But that's a beautiful combo. But I was gonna say that I don't think that SkWiirel's DI on that back air was great. I think maybe trying to DI out the combo. I do know it kills early, but SkWiirel didn't really seem to be DIing up and into the corner. So,
yeah, no, that was certainly something not quite right on that DI. I agree on that one, but you know, you're trying to be out of the combo, and the back is just so very quick. You can't really react, especially online. It makes it even more difficult here. Oh, there's a reflection with the side B.
Yeah, I was gonna say a really smart reflection there. It's extra shield pressure, maybe a bit of safety as well, and generally just not having to deal with Can.
I was a little bit worried that that was going to lead to a shield break potentially because of the high shield damage from the side B anyway, and then the reflected Can exploding as well. Oh my goodness, what a disgusting angle on that one.
You can't thrust up a down smash, dude. You can't do that. Those moves have hits behind them. Yeah, it's a bit of a small error from SkWiirel, but generally like SkWiirel was a full stock down at that point.
Yeah.